Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
PM on your community radio 3CR.
We are still fired up and we're still talking about revolution.
Hello and welcome to the Doing Time Show. This is 3CR Community Radio, 855 AM on the dial, streaming live on www.3cr.org.au. This is Marissa and we'll be taking you through until 5 o'clock this evening. And in the studio with me today, we've got Rob, who has also done some work with us on the show.
Hello.
First up, we're going to be speaking with Brett Collins from Justice Action about campaigns that the organisation is working on, and we will also discuss computers in cells. Brett also has a breakthrough announcement to make about this. After that, we'll have a pre-recorded interview that Peter has prepared. It's an interview with a musician from America who will talk about prisons and introduce his music. So starting off, as well as that, so Brett will talk about Dylan Voller as well. There's been a lot of things and developments that have been happening about that. One of the central focuses for Justice Action was their campaign to introduce computers in cells, which they look forward to continuing. They work closely with the Community Justice Coalition to demonstrate to law and policymakers the importance of having online services in cells. This would provide prisoners with access to important resources, including legal information, educational courses and rehabilitation programs. Justice Action was also invited to speak at a forum in Darwin addressing the abuse faced by juvenile offenders at the Dondale Detention Centre. The exposure of abuse in juvenile justice facilities has created an opportunity for proper monitoring to occur. This is a prevailing issue that desperately requires further monitoring and attention. So I just read out some information from the Justice Action report. Now, shortly we're going to be going to a song while Rob lines up Brett Collins from Justice Action. And the song that we're going to be doing is Kev Carmody. Rob, what's it called?
I've Been Moved.
I've Been Moved by Kev Carmody. I always get a mental block whenever I look at that song. So yeah, we'll be playing him very soon, and after that we'll be speaking with Brett Collins. Thanks, Rob.
A new illustrated book by Alina and Bruce MacDonald stars our beloved comrade Bill Della as the protagonist in a journey that stems from Ballarat to Humpty Doo and features all the lefty issues that were dear to Bill's big heart. 3CR has a few precious copies of this beautiful book for sale for $20 plus $5 postage. All proceeds will go to the Solidarity Breakfast Program's Radiothon Fund. You can buy it online at the 3CR shop. Go to the 3CR website, 3cr.org.au, or pick up your copy at the station.
There is power in our union. Now the lessons of the past were all learned with workers' blood.
And you're back with the Doing Time Show, and we're speaking with Brett Collins from Justice Action, who's been on this show for more times than I can count. How are you, Brett?
Good on you, Marissa. That's right. I love being with you guys.
It's great, isn't it, to talk about, things about prisons in detail, because it really isn't a very trendy topic, is it?
Well, I guess not. I mean, look, somebody keeps telling me, Brett, are you still working in this area? Why don't you do something different? And I think, hang on. This is my community. We've got 44,000 currently there in the prisons, and 40,000 actually, and about another 4,000 in the locked hospitals.
That's
and
right.
I can't walk away from my community. I'm very pleased to be still working with the team. I got great support from people inside the prisons while I was there, and so I'm very pleased to still be working in the area.
Absolutely. So, Brett, I actually quoted just a little paragraph from the 2016 report. No, yeah, about computers and about how it's really important to have computers in the cells of prisoners. And I believe that you wanted to talk about that, and that there was an announcement about a breakthrough.
Well, that's right. In fact, look, at the moment, no one knows it's happened, right? So there we are. It's the first time we've actually talked about it to the media, and that is we've actually won. We've won computers in cells in New South Wales. And that's an earth-shattering change. It comes on the back of a long 20-year campaign, actually, highlighting how important it is to have something for people to do inside their cells which is useful, which allows them to do education, learn new skills, and then, most importantly, communicate with the outside world. So it really allows the technology to penetrate the walls in a safe way, gives people access to certain parts of the internet, and you can email to family and friends and a certain group of people who have been accepted for, say, phone calls. They always they will also be allowed for email. So it's a very important breakthrough, and I don't doubt at all that it will flow through to the rest of Australia.
So where's that happening?
It's happening in New South Wales. It's happening, well, they talked in terms of it happening in 4 jails, first of all, but it's not just a trial. The trial's actually already been going for 2 years. This is actually a rollout of computers. And so what they've really done, they've acknowledged the fact that in New South Wales they have the highest rate of recidivism of any state in Australia. So it means, first of all, the state plan that said that they intend to reduce recidivism, reduce the number of people returning to jail within 2 years after release, reduce them from what it was, right, by 5%. And instead it went up by 8% over 4 years. So they have the embarrassment of the state plan having failed, and having spent an amazing amount of money with building new jails, with having more people returning to jail. So, in fact, any question about reducing crime and lessening victims, that didn't happen. And so the Premier herself is embarrassed, and they've decided that they will bring in the only fresh thing that is possible, which is bringing in counselling and information and access to communication in cells via computers. And so there'll be access to computers in cells with the internet, within safe whitelisted websites. So all that's very exciting, and it's following it behind the example of the ACT, who's had that sort of service in there now for 8 years. So it's proven, it's been trialled, and proven to be safe, and also not that much different really than letters and things, except they're instantaneous. People can actually send an email to their family from inside their cell, and have an interaction with their child, with their mum
on Skype.
That's right, and pass it within 5 minutes. And lawyers, of course, and lawyers as well. And so it means that it'll become much more transparent inside the prisons. People will become more accessible and remain part of the community instead of being locked away and not being able to send letters, and quite often they're not being received.
And when is that going to be happening?
Well, we're told within weeks. We're told that it's, as I say, it's a 20-year campaign, 20 years.
Wow.
But in this situation, the government has been embarrassed by its failure, and having failed so badly, having touted how they were going to improve, having failed, they have to do something. And the one thing they could do was doing computers in cells. So it's just a remarkable change. We haven't, as I say, we haven't yet told people about it, and it's over the next few days we'll issue a media release of some sort, and then we have a major celebration of some sort, which we're planning also.
But it is all right, obviously, to say it on air here. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done it.
Yes, look, it's the sort of thing. Well, one nice thing about this victory is what we did. We actually did some very careful research that said if they had accepted the offer, there was an offer that we had made 2 years ago, that we would actually run out online counselling into a trial jail, and we actually did this to the Law and Justice Committee, where there's a special inquiry, and said, look, we can afford this. We've actually got the backing to give online counselling to this particular jail. And then after they'd refused, they said, oh no, you can only give counselling with our mental health professionals there. We then did some very careful analysis that said, by their having refused that offer for online counselling, the effect of that was there were over 500 women and children who were traumatized by domestic violence as a result, and $110 million was lost because per year. We actually had some very careful analysis that said exactly that. And then we distributed that argument to every member of Parliament, every judge, right, in New South Wales, with a personal letter, and supported by John Dowd and Elizabeth Evatt. And that was the telling point.
So, this is fascinating, Brett. I'm fascinated by all this because, I don't think this is even happening in America. I don't think they're doing this in the US.
Well, that's right.
Not the internet and the online counselling.
Well, in fact, look, that's true. They're not. In fact, the ACT is one of the only prisons in the world in which it happens to have whitelisted websites where, for example, the university or the TAFE college or a domestic violence counsellor or Mood Gym or one of those government-funded websites is available to people in prison. That hasn't happened anywhere in the world. It is in fact quite fresh.
And what are the restrictions that are going to be placed? Obviously, there will be restrictions.
It'll be like everything that's is in general availability won't be available. They'll only whitelist certain websites. So there'll be a whitelist for websites, say, for example, at the university, for example, for legislation. So any legal material where you need access to find out what the law is so you can defend yourself, that will be whitelisted. So anything that is actually has no chance for dangerous material or security issues, that won't be allowed in. But any mainstream information or educational material or counselling material that will be available. It has to be negotiated.
Of course.
But currently in the ACT, you're able to email 5 people. Right, so you can have 5 people you can actually email as you want. And as you send things, it takes 5 minutes to go through. So from you sending your email, it's received to the other side from the other person 5 minutes later. And so any trauma at home, any trouble with the kids, or if your mother wants to talk to email to you, you can actually can receive that email almost in real time. And that is such a difference. It means that the social isolation of imprisonment will be broken down by this technology and a safe technology, proven technology, which is great. And
does that include educational resources as well?
Absolutely, it does. Educational resources is key to it. In fact, look, one of the things about this was, we were represented at it's called an Australasian Corrections Education Association conference that happened last week in Canberra. And so we were invited to go down to there to spend a couple of days interacting with some of the key people in international education. For example, they had the president of the Corrections Education Education Association for the United States, a woman called Peggy Myers, was there, and she was one of the presenters. And there was a woman there who was a woman called Annette Barker, who was for all Europe. She was the president of the European Prison Education Association, and of course the Australian one, and all the key people from around the world talking about prison education. And what became really clear was in no area in the world is this being done properly, that the computers themselves have not penetrated yet. And so what we're doing here in Australia will be special and will be, in some ways, a bit of a watershed. It's a watershed moment. It definitely is. We've got a proper bridge of communication across the prison wall, and that's going to be very, very,
Absolutely.
very special.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that this is going to really open up a lot of doors in regards to getting an education. You no longer have to supply classrooms. So there's going to be a lot more subjects that will be available. Teachers can teach online. All they have to do is just go online at a certain time as well.
Yeah.
Although I think they're going to be doing classrooms, aren't they? Still? In conjunction?
I didn't hear the last comment, sorry.
They will be doing classrooms, won't they, in conjunction with that? With the computers?
I didn't hear that word.
Oh, you can't. Are you there, Brett?
Yes, I am. Yes, I can hear you well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the classrooms, would they be having...
Oh, the classrooms,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, look, the classrooms, look, that's really interesting. You see, in New South Wales, talking about classrooms and education, what they have done, they've closed down all the educators, they sacked 136 teachers here in New South Wales in order they could privatise it. But then, when we listened to this woman talking about prison education in Europe, so she represented 28 countries in Europe for prison education, and we said to her, "Well, how long do prisoners in Europe, in average, get to speak to the teacher?" She said, "An hour a week."
Wow, that's just incredible. That's
an
not
hour
much.
a week, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And with the computer system, they'll have a lot more access.
That's right. I mean, look, that's ludicrous, you know, and so really the whole discussion about prison education is really, in some ways, almost irrelevant, really, because if you only get an hour a week with a teacher, that's time you get out of your cell. You have, up to 18 hours a day in a cell, so the 6 hours you get out, you're unlikely to want to sit in a classroom. You want to run around and get a bit of fresh air in your lungs and talk to your mates and get up to a bit of skullduggery, a bit of an argument here and there. You want to do something. You're not going to sit down on your bottom on a seat in the classroom. So it's much better to use the time that you have in the cell by yourself.
That's right.
Right to do your education there, and you can build it up slowly. Yeah.
Is that state policy, Brett?
What is state policy? That's absolutely. Well, we know that. Absolutely. No. As I say, it hasn't yet been announced. But it is special, very important, and it's not a question of if or whatever. We've been negotiating on this for the last few weeks. The agreement of it being full function computers and cells was told to us last week,
and it's definite. It's definite.
Yes, it's definite. Not a question about it. And it will have a follow through to all the other states. The ACT we went into the ACT 8 weeks ago and went through there, had a look at carefully what were the computers and cells, what was the impact of them, and we were just amazed. The communication between people in prisons and the families outside was just amazing. And I'll give you a figure that hasn't been said before. I'll give you a figure. In every week, 22,000 emails go in and out of the prison in the ACT. There's only 440 prisons there. 22,000.
Yeah, another good thing too about this I could see is the access to counselors, and also access.
That's right. I can't hear that second voice. I'm not very well.
Yeah,
actually.
Robert, you'll need to go closer to the microphone.
Yeah.
Can you hear now, Brett?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear better now. That's right. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's one of the benefits from this is that they will have access to counselors and also people that can work on behavior. So if they got any issues they're dealing with in there, they can get some coaching as well, so they can work on controlling their behaviors as well, or dealing with any addictions they need to deal with, so when they get back out in the streets, they'll be more in control.
Yeah. Well, look, I would see this as being a game changer right through the whole system. Actually, it's something that it just means that everything can be mainstream. You won't have to put up with even the counsellor, for example, the psychologist who's in the jail. All they do is they just rate you according to whether they think that you're safe to be released or not, and you just talk bullshit to them.
It's true. It's true, Brett.
Yeah.
And I think what Robert meant was that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robert. You meant that in terms of rehab programs, that he's not saying that all prisoners have addictions.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No, what I was talking about there. Sorry about that. My mic was a bit low. That they'll have access to counselors.
Yeah, not that.
And also behavioralists. So if there's any issues and stuff they want to talk to and stuff, so they can learn how to deal with their own problems.
Yeah. You there, Brett?
Yes. I am there. Sorry, somebody else came in. No, that's look, I think what we'll find is the counselling stuff will all change. I think we'll find that the system is going to change overall. I just think the fact that people are in their cells by themselves and have a chance to think through what's being said just makes all the difference. And that means that you then can also have, instead of having the prison counsellor talking with you, and as I say, you've got to, if you don't tell lies to prison counsellor, you're mad. You're mad. You've got to tell the counsellor. The prison counsellor what they need to be told. Otherwise, you're not going to go home at all. So the last thing you're going to be doing is exposing any weaknesses you've got. Your mates tell you what you have to say, and you say what you have to.
Hey, Brett? I was just thinking maybe the guards need to get counselling as well. for their behaviours.
Well, I agree. The only thing is that they're being paid, right? So I think this is a different situation, right? So if they're being paid, I think their obligations are limited to make sure that people don't escape. Yeah. But the prisoner who's sitting in a cell is more than entitled to get the benefit of whatever.
Right. That's what you meant, Rob.
Yeah, already paid for. Absolutely.
It's approximately.
Because being in a cell, you're limited to getting access to counselors. You're limited to getting any education, and all this is going to be available now for them. In some situations, day or night.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. It's approximately 4:22, and you're listening to an interview with Brett Collins from Justice Action. So that's a wonderful thing, and we'll be watching this. Watch this space, listeners, for that, and keep an eye on that. So, Brett, moving on to Dylan Voller. What a terrible thing. I mean, we interviewed Christine Palmer, an Aboriginal elder who was present at the protest in Alice Springs, where Dylan and his mother and a bunch of other youth were arrested. And he went to prison, didn't he? And
yes, he did. That's right. Yeah.
Now he's been released, correct?
That's right. I think Joanne and Joanne's his mother and Dylan were released finally. But it was obvious that they were being brutalised down there. It's obvious that there was an attempt to intimidate them there in Alice Springs. I think any idea of people taking on the police and saying you can't lock up our kids. I think they think, hey, hang on, we've been doing that for decades now. Well, centuries actually. That's the way we do it. What do you think you're doing? So it's cheeky people. Who do they think they are criticising the police? And you can see that brutality that they normally have inside the cells spilled out in the streets. And I understand also a photographer was also was brutalised as well. So it's obvious that a bit of exposure by the media into what's happening there with in the Northern Territory with youth detention is having an impact, and that's great.
Yeah, because Dylan apparently started up a campaign, or helped to start a campaign, Shut Youth Prisons, Youth Detention. Yes. And I think listeners may recall that in 2015, the Doin' Time show did an interview with a lawyer from the Human Rights Law Centre. In fact, we interviewed Ruth Barson even before all the exposure about what was happening with the young Aboriginal detainees happened, with the spit hoods. And the government knew about this for ages,
That's right, they squatted on it. Yes, that's right.
It sparked a Royal Commission, and now, Dylan is days off going on parole, and that's been ruined now because the police want to shut him up, right?
Yes, look, I don't really see it that way, to be honest. I think that Dylan being out front and being able to take on the system, having his mum there, supporting his mum out front there in the streets is a good thing. I think the fact that the police are
it is.
Yes, for sure. I think also that this is the sort of solidarity that makes the difference, that makes things change.
For sure.
And I think Dylan's spirit is so well directed in the way it is, and supporting his mum there, and as long as he knows how to limit his behaviour as well, because sometimes they would very much try to criminalise him again if they could, and so he should. I'm sure he's getting good advice from people about what he should be careful not to do. And I think I'm getting a sense of that. I've heard a lot of really good accounts about him as a man, and feeling as a proud Aboriginal man. Standing there for his mum and for his community still inside. I think that's really laudable, and I think when the police misbehave in the way they have, brutalised people, including the media, I think they're just setting themselves up. I'm sure Dylan will come out with a big smile on his face, and we'll all be very proud of him.
We're saying the same thing. That's precisely what I meant. That the police were trying to criminalise him.
Yeah, that's right.
It's approximately 4:26. We've got about 1 minute until our next interview. But Brett, it's so good to have you on. It's always good to thrash out these issues, isn't it?
And Marissa, it's lovely to talk with you as well, and all our friends down in Victoria. It's look, I'm sure they get a sense of solidarity with them. I know that there's some good things happening in Victoria as well about education. I know that that's the case because at the conference they were talking about also having some sort of maybe laptop computers there for education as well. So that's happening very shortly too. So it's not far behind. It's
wonderful. I'm glad.
Yes.
Good on you, Brett. Keep up the good work.
Okay, thanks, Marissa.
Bye-bye.
Lovely to speak with you again.
You too, bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
And that was Brett Collins from Justice Action speaking about a number of issues in regards to Dylan Voller and also having computers in cells. Next up, we're going to be doing our pre-recorded interview that Peter's prepared in regards to a musician that's been... was in Australia when that interview was recorded, actually. And he's going to be talking about prisons and looking at introducing his music. So on behalf of the Do and Time show, it's goodbye, but it isn't. Basically, we're not going to be going out with our theme song, Black Fella, White Fella, today. I'm going to put the recording on. It's goodbye from Marissa and Rob too.
Goodbye.
And but it's not goodbye, so stay tuned for Peter's pre-recorded material, and also just to let listeners know there may be a language warning with some of the songs. Okay, but please do stay tuned and listen out to the pre-recorded interview, because the show is actually not over until that interview is over. And enjoy. Okay, bye.
Welcome to the Doing Time show. I'm Peter. We have Robert in the studio from his band Decide Today, that are based in Cincinnati. The band's ex-Real Side, an electro-anarcho hardcore with strong elements of breakcore and industrial hip-hop. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Good to be here.
Can you talk about the band and your tours so far?
Yeah, sure. Decide Today essentially started after the Realicide group came to an end. So, but its foundation was kind of gradual. Realicide ended at towards the latter months of 2010, and for the couple of years following that, Decide Today was primarily a campaign of Xerox poster art that was circulating around Cincinnati and mailed to friends elsewhere in the States. And it wasn't until 2013 that me and a friend actually started finishing some tracks to turning into a musical project and do live shows. So throughout 2013, we were playing mainly locally in Cincinnati to get things rolling. In 2014, started touring United States. Then 2015 and 16 went over to Europe, and now I'm finally back in Australia 7.5 years after Realicide toured here.
Well,
time. Yeah.
That long ago, wow.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's cool. I've been running into homies that I met back then. Seeing familiar faces is cool. Seeing people, like yourself, still at it, still involved in wild music that's backed by. I guess to the average person, equally wild social politic. So I'm really appreciative to be able to visit everybody again, and obviously meet a lot of new friends. And yeah, so far we've been up to Queensland, did a couple gigs in Brisbane and Ipswich. Then we were down in Nimbin, New South Wales, visiting the Toe Cutter and on his kind of hippie commune. Totally it's a wild scene in Nimbin. I had a really good. We went over to the farmers market that was happening that afternoon, and I saw there's whole little shops that are dedicated to doing some gigs in Tassie, going back over to Sydney. We're going to go to the Blue Mountains. But you can, if you look up the Decide Today and Evolve Australia tour schedule on Facebook, there's an event page for it. Or just look up Realicide, or just hit me up. I'm Robert Inman on Facebook, but my name is Robert Inhuman. It's really just so I don't get locked off Facebook. But yeah, you can look and see what the other shows coming up are, and if you happen to be anywhere in the area, come by and say what's up.
Awesome. You're involved with June 11 in Cincinnati.
Absolutely.
The Day of Solidarity with all ECHO prisoners. Can you talk about that?
100%. Yes, I can. I've been doing annual June 11th events in Cincinnati since this international organized annual event was started in 2011. So this year was the 7th annual. And yeah, there's basically the idea is that there are cities all over the world doing solidarity events for all long-term anarchist prisoners. And they can take any form, they can be benefit concert, it could be letter writing days, they could be, movie screenings, anything. It all adds up. So whatever town you happen to live in, just consider, well, first of all, go on june11.org and find out if anybody else in your town is already arranging an event for June 11th, Solidarity. Collaborate with them if so. Absolutely recommend teaming up with people to make it really hit hard. But if nobody else is doing it, even if you live in a small town, for real, just getting some friends together to write letters. And there's current contact information and short biographies about many long-term anarchist prisoners on the June 11th website, which again is just june11.org. It all adds up, and then you can report how things went to the people who are running the site, and they'll list it all, and it really counts. It counts for something. International effort. It can really it can really build into something powerful, and none of us that are free on the outside, who are still able to interact freely within our communities, can have really any true comprehension of what it means to people who are inside, who have been stolen away from their communities for, in pretty much every case, doing things that need to be done in this world, fighting necessary, unavoidable, unignorable fights, engaging in struggle that really, if this planet and definitely our species, and not to mention all other species, are going to survive, these are necessary struggles to engage in. But specifically Marius Mason, who at least by American standards has the most harsh and absurd sentence of any eco-defense direct action activist so far, which is nearly 22 years in American prison for Earth Liberation Direct Actions, has a connection to Cincinnati specifically because he was arrested in Cincinnati. It must have been 2008. I think it was 8, and then maybe the sentencing was 2009. But yeah, was a very celebrated member of the Cincinnati community, as among other places that he lived. But so when June 11th comes around in Cincinnati every year, it holds a special weight. It really hits close to home. There are a lot of folks in my town who have been Marius friends and colleagues, and so that's why, even if it's not always a big effort, June 11th can sometimes fall on a Monday or Tuesday, but as long as I live in Cincinnati, which probably will be for quite a while, there will be an event every year, and I'm always thrilled to collaborate with anyone else who's interested in the topic of solidarity with political prisoners, long-term anarchist prisoners, and honestly, anybody who's doing time in an American prison or anything comparable to it elsewhere in the world, because it is there's a really easy argument to make that any prisoner in America, and I'm assuming Australia probably would have some similarities in their prison industrial complex. that even any average prisoner could be construed as a political prisoner in a sense because of the inherent racism and harsh sentences for nonviolent crimes related to things like drugs or or direct action, like we're talking about with these June 11th prisoners. Whereas people who are killing and raping people are sometimes getting lighter sentences. It doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. The reason why these sentences are harsher or more harsh is to deter people from engaging in, resistance movements. And in the case of drugs and other nonviolent offenses, it's they're targeting marginalized groups of people who may be involved in these nonviolent quote unquote crimes as a just basic means of survival in urban settings when they're typically shut out or really disadvantaged from advancing themselves, like financially, like economically or class-wise, based on the way the system is set up. It's meant to keep certain people in. It's meant to definitely keep other people out. So anyway, till every prison burns to the ground, that's what's up, man.
Yeah, we'll play that June 11 track by Decide Today right now.
Learn the facts about political prisoners. Because the world they defend, that world is also yours. When crime is defined by those who want power, your attitude can cost your freedom at any hour. Be an anarchist prisoner, no longer sentence time. More intense security, communications more deprived. Not because the crime was greater, not because of a violent nature. Conflicts much more severe because it stands for one virus. Capital never fight with
Chris Mason, since 2008, serving 22 years in American prisons for Earth Liberation Direct Actions, destroying a GMO research office and logging machinery in 1999, during which no one was injured.
Another instance of FBI entrapment by means of informants infiltrating and coercing circles of otherwise intelligent and useful activists. Learn and practice security culture. Learn from situations like what happened to Eric McDavid, David McKay, and others in the past.
Marius has remained a vigilant radiance of the anarchist spirit throughout even his years stolen from our community. Victims of the Green Scare, a phenomenon in which animal rights and environmental activists receive sentencing more harsh than people convicted of actual violent crimes. These activists are often incarcerated in especially restricted facilities known as communication management units, the same circumstances as prisoners charged with homicidal terrorism. Their idea is to make as extreme example possible of these consequences to ultimately deter any of us from continuing tactics of economic sabotage in defense of the natural earth. That's right, save some trees and throw your whole life away. Resistance therefore requires heightened organization, discipline, and determination, recognizing now more than perhaps ever before that this is indeed war against the state and its religion of capital used to endorse what can be described accurately as an eco-holocaust.
And that was Decide Today by from Cincinnati, ex-Real Side. So, Robert, you were saying that you're involved with Black Lives Matter?
Yes, definitely.
In Cincinnati?
Yes, definitely.
Could you please talk about that and updates on what's going on?
Certainly. Black Lives Matter Cincinnati is a grassroots revolutionary movement for black liberation. It is disassociated with the national network of BLM in America based on some frustrations with the decisions that official network has made, particularly in reference to continued support of friends and families of victims of police violence, like police brutality and other state violence. Some of the things that BLMC, like the Black Lives Matter Cincinnati specifically, aligns itself with in its official political principles are solidarity with the queer community, emphasis on leadership of women in the movement, solidarity with workers' rights and fighting for better minimum wage in the region that we live in. It does not believe that lasting and crucial political change comes from campaigns in the ballot box. It's not an organization that's suggesting voting for anyone at all, Republican, Democrat, or anything else of the sort, because it all ends up basically being like the same game, not designed to advance like marginalized and oppressed people. So basically, direct action, grassroots, community efforts are the emphasis rather than voting. I don't know. There's been 10 official political principles of BLMC for the past year or two, but actually, while I'm on this Australian tour back home, one thing that's been developed is an 11th political principle is being introduced officially, and that is related to environmental defense. Environmental justice is what they're going to be calling it. And so it honestly, I didn't know what to expect when I started coming around to some of the rallies and meetings that BLMC was doing the past couple of years. But when I saw what their principles were, a lot of the people that are involved in it are of the socialist persuasion.
Oh, yep.
But me coming into it as like a pretty dedicated anarchist, I gotta say, it really checked off all the boxes of the things that I care about, and so it's been really, really amazing that even with a focus on Black liberation, the intersection and collaboration with these other struggles that run clearly parallel is just fantastic. The leadership there is without ego, without the trappings of all these things that so often self-sabotage resistance movements, especially in a humble town like Cincinnati. Yeah. Cincinnati's not a small city, really, but it's not huge, and sometimes the attitude can be a bit of a small town attitude. Anyway, it's been awesome. I'm really thankful to develop friendships with the leadership of BLMC and try to help out whenever I can. It's not something where I find myself having any urge or necessity to be the face or the voice of that group. You know, my role is to be kind of more behind the scenes, set up the PA gear, set up the microphone, help set up the projector for events, help do the recording for the podcast that we periodically record episodes with interviews. You know, just ways to help out behind the scenes, and really, really learning a lot from like Brian Taylor and Mona and the other people who are more the voice on the platform. And even aside from the BLMC steering committee, like leadership, learning a lot from the amplification of the voices of the families of victims of police murder and other state violence, and just as much as it helps them to have the community backing them in those intense and devastating times. Anybody who's there to hear what these friends and families of these victims have to say about it, and to see them in a position of being empowered and literally being amplified with the perspective on the matter, it's incredibly valuable, and it's incredibly inspiring, and that's why I'm going to keep on coming back, keep on helping out, and yeah, I'm really proud of Cincinnati for the BLMC organization this past couple years, and I can't always say that about things that are going on in my hometown. There's a lot of struggle. It's a very tense, hostile climate where I come from, and so big shout outs to everybody making it happen, and just incredibly thankful and really looking forward to getting involved when I return home from tour. And I know there's a few things going on while I'm gone, general body meetings and probably some rallies surrounding recent events that I might be more out of the loop on since I've been traveling. Yeah. But yeah, it's good people doing necessary work.
Yep. Thanks for that. We'll go to an announcement and then to a song.
We jail black males in Australia nationally at a rate 5 times greater than apartheid South Africa jailed black males in 1993. The suicide and self-harm rates are the highest in the world, and the life expectancy gap is the biggest in the first world. You know, Australians don't like hearing the truth about how bad things are, but the more we resolve from it, the longer this is going to continue.
Black fella, white fella, it doesn't matter what you color.
Mainstream media is not interested in this stuff. It doesn't find space to talk truthfully and deeply about issues that affect all Australians. The only place predominantly you will find that with any real depth is on community radio, and 3CR has been one of the great leaders in that. So if people are wondering where they should spend their hard-earned cash, I would suggest 3CR is a bloody good place to start.
What your name is, we got the hair, lots of changes, we need more brothers.
This song's called Don't Talk to Cops by Decide Today.
What's his name? What's his name? Give me a name now. I want a name. Oh, no. Give me a name. Oh, no. What's his first name? No. I don't want you to be a snitch. You don't want to be a snitch. What's his first name? I don't want you to be a snitch. You don't want to be a snitch. What's his first name?
But even worse was how I treat her with all the police. Reacting with suspicion after hours for victim. Racist racist bullets with no intent to protect me. Am I free to go? Or no shit with a power trip, they'll probably tell you no. But when they talk to you, just say I'm remaining silent. And if they search you, remember, say you do not have my consent. No! 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 Fear the physical confrontation. There comes a line on your top of the simulation. Real freedom seeking choice of your situation. As it comes to strip it down with proof and intimidation. Alternative solutions to the problems we got. That's right, real ones. Don't talk, don't talk. Alternative solutions to the problems we got. Couple of little kids were skating instead of riding all day online. Down the block you hear gunshots. Meanwhile, rest were pinning on the wall. That few cops would good until this on our streets of course. But they'll be stubborn than the rest of goons until they win the fight. No! 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 I am just an old on society. Not a real bunch of motherfucking cops around me. United, we don't see eye to eye. United, don't kill the rest because they put my real ones. Don't talk, don't talk. Alternative solutions to the problems we got. Yeah, real ones. Don't talk, don't talk. Alternative solutions to the problems we got. Yeah. Henchmen of a class system, not to demonize, but just to observe the reality. Administrators of oppression, armed guards for the aristocracy. But this is not another song about juvenile fantasies of killing pigs. This is a call for common sense and an affirmation to step back and think and take responsibility. Come on your community. Never say I'm a violent king and take me the police. Take responsibility. Come on your community. Never say I'm a violent king and take me the police.
Police carrying high-powered rifles. Police carrying high-powered rifles. Police carrying high-powered rifles. Police carrying high-powered rifles.
In solidarity, decide today.
I do not consent to a search.
I want to see a lawyer.
I'm remaining silent.
I do not consent to asylum. I want to see a lawyer.
I want to see a lawyer.
I remain silent.
I am remaining silent. I want to see a lawyer. I want to see a lawyer. Where am I placed to go? I am remaining silent.
I do not consent to a search.
I do not consent to a search.
I want to see a lawyer.
Am I detained or am I free to go? Or am I free to go? I do not consent to a search. I want to see a lawyer.
Oh, and that was Decide Today by, and the song was called Don't Talk to Cops, wasn't it, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're touring Newcastle on the 18th.
Mm-hmm.
The Hamilton Station Hotel.
And we don't really know anybody in Newcastle for the most part. So if anybody's got homies up in Newcastle, tell them to come to that Hamilton Station on October 18th, and happy to meet anybody and hang out. Cool.
And Friday the 20th, playing at the Valve Bar in Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Blue Mountains. It's got a Facebook event here.
Yeah, so. It's kind of like just got to ask around to find out about that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the 23rd in Ipswich.
Yeah, I think we're going to do like a little music store gig on the 23rd, right before we fly back to the States.
Tone Town music.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for coming in, Rob. Did you want to say anything else, or?
No, really, just much love and thanks to everybody in Australia who's hosted Decide Today and Evolve so far, and everybody who's gonna help us out in the coming couple weeks. If you want to download our tracks, Decide Today and Evolve both have Bandcamps where you can get the music. You can find that all. The easiest place. It's not a very amazing website, but realicide.com has links to everybody involved with the Realicide label. Then there's a Realicide YouTube channel that's got all kinds of stuff, and I'm even uploading a few videos from the tour, from the shows of this Australian tour. So if you want to see how it's been going, I guess you can check it out. But otherwise, we're on Facebook, Decide Today and Evolve, Realicide. Happy to meet anybody that we can, especially anybody who's involved in things that could be comparable to Black Lives Matter or
Awesome.
prisoner support or any of the topics that we talk about in our music. Big part of the reason why we will come to Australia is to meet people who are doing similar work and kind of trade notes and exchange ideas to take back home. And so again, much love and thanks for everybody who's being so cool to us over here.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming in. We'll just go to Decide Today Igniter track.
Announce the Earth Liberation Front and anyone who's ever risked their freedom or been in prison for defending the one world we all gotta share to survive.